So the purpose of the session today is to talk about some specialist features that we've built for complex organizations around making communication simpler, making complex organizations more simple. And I'll talk about what a complex organization is shortly. Before I do that, I just want us to step back and think about why communication is so difficult to begin with. I'm only going to spend a minute on it. Now, the first thing to note is that 86% of people across the global working population blame poor communication for workplace failures, right? And that's not frontline organizations like the world that we operate in. That's all employees, including those that have email, smartphones, laptops, all of the tools that you could need. Even in those companies, 86% of people blame poor communication for workplace failures. So if the number's 86% of people that think they've got communication problems in the economy at large, how significant do we think the challenge is for organizations that don't even have a lot of the basic tools that other businesses take for granted to make communication more simple? Now, all of you will know that Yapster specializes in the frontline economy, organizations where most people don't have a corporate email address. And that means that all of us listening today, and certainly everybody at Yapster, are familiar with the problems of communication in the frontline economy where 80% of people don't have a corporate email address. I'm just going to show an image up on screen now, which just sort of alludes to the complexity in all of your businesses where you've got multiple departments and silos and sites. And there's a real challenge in the business that it's like playing that sort of kids game of telephone where you're all whispering in a circle and something that sort of makes sense at the beginning. And as it gets passed down the line, makes less and less sense within very few messages. It gives us a sense of how chaotic communication is in any frontline organization, even if you've got 100, 200 people, 3 to 5, 6 sites. And I think we're all over that. And we've done a lot together, us on the Yapster side and you on the customer side, over recent years to make communication easier in these organizations. But what we've realized is that there's a subset of Yapster's customers that for whom the challenges are actually even greater than the ordinary frontline organization. And we define those increasingly as complex organizations. And so we've created a very special set of tools, advanced functionality that any of you are welcome to use, specifically for the complex organization, recognizing that it's always hard, but it's really hard for some businesses. So what makes a complex organization? Do you have several layers of management between the leadership team and the customer service teams? Do you have not site managers reporting into area managers, reporting into regional managers, then reporting into an exec team? If yes, you're a complex organization in our world. What about diversity of proposition? If you're in the food business, do you mix takeaway with dine-in? If you're in retail, do you have both a retail and a logistics business? If the answer is yes, then you've got a complex proposition. What about if you operate across multinational boundaries? Are you dealing with multiple languages, cultures, legal and regulatory regimes? If yes, you're a complex organization. And what about if your business is just so big that it's impossible to keep track of all the different roles that exist within the organization? You know that there's somebody that does a particular job in finance or merchandising or somewhere in the executive chef team, but you're just not quite sure who that person is or what their role is. You're a complex organization. And then finally, do you have a complex offering? Do you need to be able to get people in your organization to understand very, very specific service or product requirements so that they can competently deliver their job? If yes, you're a complex organization. So the features that I'm going to focus on showing you today in today's Q4 2021 showcase are two things in particular that were designed to make life easier in the complex organization. We call it multi-timeline, and then we'll talk about hierarchy as well. So the features summarized neatly are targeted reach. So what you're able to do with multiple timeline is you're actually able to create individual timelines, which I'll show you in a second, that make content within the Yapster newsfeed hyper relevant for the people that are receiving it. Is the assistant in Birmingham really that invested in seeing the 20th recognition post this month from the assistant in Glasgow? Quite often not. Occasionally yes, but persistently perhaps no. With multi-timeline, you're able to create these individual news feeds that mean the content is hyper relevant for each of the people that are consuming it. Then you've got announcements. Now, many of you have been using announcements really effectively in recent months to effectively create sticky content on the news feed so that you can make sure that your critical operational content doesn't get lost amongst all of the great social and cultural content that's being posted to the Yapster newsfeed. When you set up multi-timeline for a complex organization, you're actually able to create targeted announcements so you can make sure that critically important information to a given department or function or group or area gets seen and heard. And then finally, we're going to get really into hierarchical directories. But basically what that means is many of you have flat HR data. So the HR systems that you've chosen, and we love many of them, we integrate with many, are able to tell you which people work in which sites. What they can't necessarily track is which sites report into which areas, into which regions, and then enable you to effectively drill down a hierarchical tree so that you can actually you can find a site by starting with the region and then navigating down to the area. And what that basically does is it makes it much, much easier to get to a site by starting at the larger groups. So this is what hierarchical directory looks like. You've got your Yapster Find tab. So it will look exactly as the Find tab does in your platform now. But rather than when you click into your company name, which will take you to the all company directory, all of the groups, rather than it just being a mishmash of all the groups in your HR data, we actually can lay the top level grouping over the top. So in this case, it might show all of the international options. This could be regional if you don't have international in your business. And then from that first level, you can pick, in this case, you might pick the United Kingdom. And then what that will do is it will take you down to the next level of the hierarchy. And so as you can see here, you can then pick, let's say, England, because I'm giving this presentation from London. And now in London, you can click into London, and I don't have any more room on the slide. But if you've got multiple sites in London, then the hierarchy would just carry on, and then you would be able to see your 5, 10, 20 sites in London. If you've just got one site in London, then that may just show you all of the individuals working there. And hopefully you can see it creates this like lovely Russian doll experience that makes your Find tab, your directory, much easier to navigate. Okay, so now let's get into multi-timeline. Now this we're really excited about. This is my final slide, so hopefully you've got some questions for me. Please use the question bar at the bottom of Zoom so that once I'm done here, we can make this a bit more interactive. So you're on the Yapster News tab. Now, what I want you to look at first, before we get into the highlighted bit at the very top, Southwest, just look at the filters along the top. So you'll see that on the top left, it starts with all news. All news is the aggregation of all your timelines. So if you don't have multi-timeline set up currently, that will be what you're seeing right now. Basically everything bundled together with announcements onto the far left but one. So with announcements, if you post an announcement, you'll get a sticky unread badge, and your users will have to go in to see that content. The next one along in the middle, company news, that's where you can post central content that everybody's going to see, but it isn't so important that it triggers an unread badge that the users have to clear like an announcement. So far, so familiar. When you set up multi-timeline, what the users will then get is a series of additional filters that are hyper relevant to their location. So in this case, my illustrative user from this screenshot works in the southwest of this particular organization, complex organization. If he or she was in the southeast, it would say southeast up there, and so on. And that continues for all of the groups that they're subscribed to, all of the areas that they're subscribed to. Now, what this enables the leadership of the business to do, practicing social leadership as we advocate, enables them to massively increase productivity of some of their scarcest, most inspiring, time-poor people. So the operations director here has been able to send quite personalized content at significant scale to everybody in the Southwest in this case, but in a way that feels familiar to me as the user and the recipient. So I'm getting way more productivity out of my operations director using this. Now, from a social leadership and engagement perspective, we recommend using video if you feel comfortable doing it. Short videos up to 3 minutes, trading updates, culture updates, recognition. It really drives tremendous engagement. Now, I mentioned appealing to the right audience. In this case, I'm in the Southwest, but I also talked about improving productivity. We clearly want to be efficient for the operations director. We don't want he or she to have to post the same thing to every different group that it potentially relates to. So in this case, what the director's been able to do is when he's created this post, when you click the little pencil icon up in the top right of the news tab, he's selected the groups that this relates to, the timelines that this relates to. And so in this case, it's the Southeast and the Southwest. So my area, the Southwest, and my neighbors in the Southeast. And if you look at the text on the screen, you'll see it's because this relates to Christmas promotions that are relevant to regions. And so obviously we want all of the regions to see this. So again, it's driving more productivity for the operations director, like currently you get from messaging the whole organization at scale, but it's also driving really significant engagement and targeted relevance to the groups that the content relates to. This, of course, enables your operational leaders not just to be more productive, but actually to grow as leaders and grow their influence. Because you have to be active to drive influence, but irrelevant activity over time can actually erode influence. So this is about finding that real sweet spot from an influence perspective by combining efficiency and relevance. And ultimately what you get is increased engagement. So I hope that's been useful. We're trying to make these showcases short and sweet. Very happy to take questions now. Those of you that are Yapster customers that are watching and don't have multi-timeline set up yet, please do give us a shout, yap me or email me directly or contact the guide dog team at support@yapster.info, and we'll get right on with setting up multi-timeline or setting up the synthetic hierarchy if you want to make your find tab make slightly more sense. Okay, so we do have some questions. Thank you very much for those of you that have sent those in. How do I get started with this feature? So there's no additional charge for this feature. If you don't have complexity in your organization, then you quite possibly don't need it. If you think you need it, reach out to us and we'll get you started. It's included in the package. It's about making Yapster more relevant for you, not about trying to make more money for us. How does the hierarchy work with the HR system? So the way hierarchy works with your HR system is actually we lay a level of context and data on top of the HR system. It actually sits outside of the HR system in the Yapster platform. So what we'll typically ask you to do is we might take a CSV, a spreadsheet export from your organizational design. We might say to you, okay, we've got your groups, the site codes in your whatever HR system you have. What we want you to do now is we want you to group those locations in this spreadsheet by area, and then we want you to group those areas by region. And what we'll eventually end up with is a really crisp hierarchical list on a spreadsheet effectively. And then what we're able to do through the Yapster backend is to import that spreadsheet so it lays over your HR data, which of course continues to just update nightly, so that your HR data is then presented in the hierarchical way within the Yapster platform when you go into the Find tab. If you then do a restructure, as we have done with a few customers, of course, after the couple of years that we've had, all we do is we sit down with you and ask you to remap that sheet so that we can attach those sites to the relevant areas and regions again. So it's pretty simple. Do we have best practice on getting started? Those of you that have been working with us for a while, hopefully you'll know that we do try and innovate relatively quickly and we do want to be responsive to you. So when we build new features, we like to tell you about them in a feature showcase, a feature release. And then what we like to do is develop best practice with you, which we then share in a feature showcase like today. So best practice has emerged. I won't name them on the camera, but we've got some fantastic customers that are having really significant success in demystifying their complex organization with these features. I'm sure for the price of a lunch, they'd be very happy to meet with you and share that directly. But otherwise, I'm very happy to share on an anonymized basis. And our marketing team will be creating more attributed and anonymized case studies on how to get started. The summary, for those of you that don't want to wait for a marketing PDF, is you need to make sure that you've got great social leaders in each timeline. Now, if you've got fantastic social leaders at the top of the business and you're posting to the all company timeline, then you're not going to suffer a tumbleweed experience. But what you really want is on top of fantastic top level content, you really want really fantastic local content. So the best practice is present to your area or regional leaders. I'm always happy to join if you'll have me on a call. And we'll talk about social leadership, how they can get started, some of the tips and techniques that they can apply to be more effective social leaders in their region. And we'll show them, I mean, it's pretty simple, but we'll show them how to post to an individual timeline within Yapster. You know, they go onto the newsfeed, they click the pencil icon, and then they just make sure that the area that they've selected for their post is the area that they're intending within the hierarchy. Do you have customers using this already? We do, and it has helped. I won't come onto a future showcase without clearing the names of the customers that are happy for me to shout about their success. This will be the last time. Today, I can't remember which customers I've actually got consent to show the case studies. So after this session, it might take us a few days, but we'll send round a follow-up email for everybody that's participated to be able to set you up those reference calls if you do want to talk to somebody that's already done this well. And then finally, how long does it take to set up? We have product configuration windows every 2 weeks. You know, we can make exceptions when you need something really urgently, but every 2 weeks we allocate time with the engineering team to do custom configurations. So generally, if you get in touch with Guide Dog or me or any of the Yapster team, say today, we'll have a call with you within the next week. We'll talk to you about what we need from you in order to set up hierarchy and multi-timeline. That will then get scheduled in the next configuration window, and then you can expect to have that into your platform pretty soon afterwards. So absolute longest I would suggest would be a month. Generally, we'd expect to be able to turn it around for you in 2 weeks. Do we have any more questions? Is there an extra cost? Sounds too good to be true. There's a fire station below our office, as those of you that have visited will know. There is no extra cost. So this is just something that's all about helping you be more effective communicators in a complex organization. You know, we're really proud to keep working with you all, and we want to keep showing that actually when you invest in Yapster this quarter, you're going to continue to accrue benefits as we improve the platform month to month, quarter to quarter thereafter. So this won't be the last additive feature that we fold into your license cost-free. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining. If you do have any other questions that didn't occur to you while we were on the call, please email me, rob@yapster.co.uk, or yap me, or as I said, reach out to the Guide Dog team and they'll give you the technical wonky answers that some of you might be looking for. Thank you so much.